6 years I've been doing business on the internet, I've received thousands of emails from Mercedes owners. Most of these are from people who own diesels, and most of the emails are in regards to problems with the engine itself. And all these problems tend to follow a pattern. Every year I receive the same emails over and over and over again. And there's 5 issues that seem to crop up all the time. Why doesn't my diesel engine start? Why doesn't my diesel engine stop? Why doesn't my diesel engine produce any power? Why does my diesel engine knock and rattle? And finally, why does my diesel engine leak fluid? You're looking at a typical 5-cylinder diesel engine. What I've learned over the years is that most owners don't need to be told how to fix the engine. They need to be told what's wrong with it. They need to be given guidance to find the problem. And that's what I mean by diagnostics. I got so tired of answering all these emails that I actually sat down and wrote a manual called Advanced Diesel Engine Fault Diagnostics. And it covers the 5 areas that I discussed earlier. This will be part 1 of a 5-part series on diesel engine fault diagnostics. I won't be able to cover everything in these videos, but when I can, I will refer you to other resources available. As you can see here, I've written a number of manuals for the do-it-yourself owner on how to deal with problems related to diesel engines. And I will refer to these and to other special tools and kits we have throughout these video series. In this first video, I'm going to cover one of the more common problems diesel owners face, especially if they are new to diesel engines. And that's, why won't my diesel engine shut off when I turn off the key? This problem's so common, we still receive emails on this subject almost weekly. In order to solve the problem of no engine shutoff, you have to understand some of the basic principles of what controls the shutoff mechanism on a diesel engine. Gasoline engines are shut off by killing the power to the spark plugs. But since a diesel engine doesn't have any spark plugs, they had to find a different way to shut the engine off. And this is done mechanically by turning off the fuel inside the injection pump with what is called the vacuum shutoff valve. This valve is controlled by vacuum, not electricity. It bolts on the back side of the injection pump, and when vacuum is applied, notice that the lever is pulled in, and when that happens, fuel to the fuel injectors is shut off. When many owners hear about the shutoff valve, they immediately think they can run out, buy a new valve, install it, and their shutoff problems will be solved. But not so fast. There's much more involved in the system, and you need to understand the different components and troubleshoot those first before running out and buying a shutoff valve. Remember, diagnose first, then buy parts. Mercedes diesel engines do not produce vacuum naturally like gasoline engines. So they need a pump, and these pumps are mounted on the front of the engine. They are activated by a cam which pushes this rod back and forth. On my left here, you're looking at an older style pump up through 1979. And this particular pump I'm holding here is from 1980 on. This uses a piston action to produce vacuum, and the older style uses a rubber diaphragm to produce action. If these pumps fail or are not producing enough vacuum, then the engine's not going to shut off. To test vacuum pump function, you will need a vacuum gauge. This can either be just a standard vacuum gauge, or it can be the gauge from a hand pump tester. If you don't have one of these, I highly recommend you purchase a hand pump tester, because you will need this to test the operation of the fuel shutoff valve. Once you've determined that the vacuum pump is producing enough vacuum, then you can move on to troubleshooting the other components in the system. If you are not familiar with vacuum pump troubleshooting and repair, be sure and check out my manual on vacuum source troubleshooting. If you notice, there are a number of vacuum lines in and around the area just up and aft of the fuel shutoff valve. Before you run out and buy any parts or even test the vacuum pump, I highly recommend you just inspect the connections to all these vacuum lines. You can't believe how many times people have emailed and said, hey, I just had an oil change and my engine won't shut off. Guess what? Some mechanic knocked one of these vacuum lines off, and any vacuum line causing a leak will prevent the engine from shutting off. Once you've checked your vacuum pump and your vacuum line connections, it's time to test the vacuum shutoff valve itself. Go ahead and remove the brown line going into the back side of the injection pump. Connect the hand pump tester and pump up vacuum and see if it holds. Note here it's holding steady. If you have any leak down at this point in the vacuum pump, then you'll have to replace the fuel shutoff valve. If your engine still does not shut off after testing the fuel shutoff valve, it's likely you have a vacuum leak somewhere inside the car that's pulling vacuum away from the shutoff valve. There are 3 vacuum circuits connected to the same vacuum bundle as the shutoff valve. The shutoff valve is brown. The black and yellow on the older models goes to the cruise control. The green vacuum line goes into the climate control, and these 2 yellow vacuum lines that you see right here go to the door locks. From my experience, leaking door locks has been the #1 cause of fuel shutoff problems. So you can isolate these one at a time by using golf tees and plugging the circuit and then retesting the shutoff. If the engine shuts off, you know you found the leak and you can proceed to troubleshoot that independently. Almost all diesel engines have a emergency shutoff valve. On these older diesels, it's located right here by the valve cover. A lot of people don't know this because the little decal is worn off. You have to push hard on the lever and the engine will shut off mechanically. That should about wrap it up for part 1 of our 5-part diesel diagnostic series. Now that you know some of the basic diagnostic principles, I think you should be able to go out and zero in on your own diesel engine shutoff problems. If you need review or additional detail, be sure and check out my manual available on my website, Why Won't My Diesel Engine Shut Off? I also have all the resources you'll need to fix any problem related to engine shutoff. These include vacuum hand pump tester kit, which includes a number of fittings and hoses. We also have an inexpensive, healthy vacuum test kit. I wrote a vacuum source troubleshooting guide, which will help you find the source of a vacuum pump problem as well as any leaks in your vacuum pump system. And I also include a kit which gives you complete instructions on how to install a new vacuum shutoff valve. This is a little difficult to get in and out of the back of the pump, but my instructions will help you do that. We have new vacuum connector kits, and finally we offer heavy-duty oil-resistant vacuum hose which can prevent leaks in the future.